So whenever I first started cheering, I was the first guy at my high school. So I was a history maker there. I then graduated and went to Francis Marion. I cheered there. I joined a cheer company, and that's when I really fell in love with coaching. Once my good friend Alex decided that she wanted to open up her own gym, we got together and we started Athletic Cheer Force, ACF, and we've been on the roll ever since. 2022 was a year that I competed cheering and won what is called the Super Bowl of cheerleading, which is called the Summit, which was a very, very great experience. However, during that experience, I was actually having one of my episodes. I knew something was wrong. Whenever they say that you know your body, you know your body. So you really want to make sure that you listen to yourself. I was prepared for the doctor to tell me that everything was fine, everything's good, they don't know what's going on, because that was the answer that I've heard time and time again. And it came back a couple of weeks later that I ended up being stage 2A, I believe, for anal cancer.
All right, my cancer journey started in January of 24. I went to my physician for my normal physical, and he said, it's time for you to have a mammogram, which I wasn't worried about one bit because I don't have any breast cancer in my family. And it came back suspicious. And I just couldn't believe it. And he said, you've got breast cancer. So on Wednesday, I had a double mastectomy, and I did beautifully. No trouble at all. And then I didn't even think I'd have to see an oncologist. And I just thought I was in the clear. But then he said, no, you really do need to see an oncologist. And I visited an oncologist at a different facility who was fine. I mean, I'm sure he would have been fine. And then I walked through their infusion center. And when I walked out, I said, I can't do this. So when we got in the car, I was in tears. I called my surgeon, who is a dear little friend. I could have birthed him, he's that young, but still. And I said, Jason, I can't do this. And he said, listen, he said, I want you to see Dr. Jamie Smith, and I want you to go to McLeod. And I said, okay. And I just drove from one facility to the next, and I saw Dr. Smith, and oh my goodness, he was dropped down from heaven for me. He is so calm and so gentle, and he knows how to deal with an anxiety-ridden old lady. I mean, he just did beautifully with me. And I said, well, can I see your infusion center? Because that was the biggest thing for me. So he called Stacy, and she met us, and she walked us through the infusion center. And when I walked out, I said, this is it. It was I was totally at peace. On the very first time I went, Mary Alice was my nurse. And I told her, I said, Mary Alice, I'm crazy. I don't do well with stuff like this. I don't even know what a port is, but I have one, and I know you're going to have to stick it. And she said, don't you worry. And she was the perfect nurse for me, because she understood my anxiety, and she was able to explain everything, and she checked on me, but she never got excited when I got excited. And it's just heartwarming. The whole experience has been heartwarming.
It was a wide range of emotions. I initially felt like relieved, just because I knew answers. Initially, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be like, what the heck is going on? I didn't know it was that serious. But after that settled in, and, I knew that I had to get my mind right. For me, as a former athlete, I just have to get in that zone and, zen myself out, meditate, focus, pray, and really trust that everything was going to be okay. I unfortunately got to the point where the treatment was so hard on my body that I wasn't able to continue working. So I had no income really coming in. I was close to being evicted. All these things were happening, and it just felt like, for me at that time, I was almost to the point that I was going to crack. I met Sarah Beth. She came in and she told me who she was, and that if I needed anything, any type of help, And after the conversation with her, she was able to help me financially with my rent so that, I wouldn't fall behind and get evicted. Once I met her, it was just like a breath of fresh air. She never made me feel like I was less than, never made me feel like I couldn't come to her. I would be forever grateful for her and the whole foundation.
I did the infusion through May, and then about a week after that, I went and kept my 2 nephews and a niece, and I developed their cough. Dr. Smith said, let's get that checked out. So we did. I had a CT scan, and then lo and behold, the CT scan came up and said I had a cyst on my pancreas. But I had to have a distal pancreatectomy and a splenectomy. Then I came back and I started chemo for that on December the 30th. And then 2 weeks after I finished that, I went with my friends to France, and we went to France for 2 weeks. I have not been sick. I've done beautifully.
Whenever, I came to treatment, from the person that greeted me at the door to the receptionist at the desk, all the nurses, the doctors, the techs, everyone. But the cancer team at McLeod is definitely, top tier. I can really tell that they really care about your well-being and you as a person and not just a patient. Dr. Gating was a cool, calm, collected doctor. From the type of radiation and where I had to get my radiation done, he knew that it would be, slightly uncomfortable, and he tried to make me feel as comfortable as possible, which I really appreciated.
I know this sounds unusual, but my entire cancer experience has been a blessing. I wouldn't change anything. It has just been wonderful, but it has been wonderful because of McLeod and because of Dr. Smith and Brittany and those precious nurses down in that infusion center.
So to the donors, I would say thank you. Every dime, penny that you put into this foundation has really benefited us, survivors, to keep surviving. It helps us get that weight lifted off our shoulders. It helps us not worried about, the day-to-day grind and just worry about surviving, living. It is something special that you're doing that you don't even realize how impactful it will be in someone's life.